So again, just another interesting way to look at things, whether it be, all of the above, the biological component, the environmental component, but you can tell we still just don't know. We're still trying to figure all of this out and how this all plays a role in a ever-growing world with all new things around us at all times. So that's kind of where we are right now as far as to the why piece of the increase, the why piece of why it's still an epidemic and continuing to rise. So just some thoughts on that. So we're going to really emphasize the warning signs right now and kind of go through the next few slides with that. And then we're going to actually watch a video, which is a case study of a young girl. So remember who is at most risk, what gender and what ethnicity at suicidal attempt. Do you guys remember? Female, Hispanic female. So we're going to kind of just watch a case study to kind of wrap up this morning and just talk about a little bit, maybe pointing out some warning signs of that individual. And then we're going to finish up with the what can we do piece. So we're going to finish up with just an example of a screening tool, and then as well just briefly talk about some therapies and techniques that are out there to help. So again, some of the warning signs include talking about wanting to die or kill themselves, looking for a way, such as searching for a gun or where I can find one or buy one. Again, medications, all the different ways that are out there. Feeling hopeless, feeling trapped, feeling like a burden to others. Oftentimes, they'll just say, well, my friends are mad at me, my parents are mad at me, everybody is just angry with me, and maybe it would be better if I wasn't here anymore. The use of alcohol or drugs, acting anxiously or agitated. I should go back, increasing the use of alcohol or drugs too. A lot of times we do have these co-occurring mental health illnesses and they're just trying to make themselves feel better, right? And so we also know that kind of lowers our inhibitions and is a risk factor because we're more likely to do some of those risk-taking behaviors on drugs and alcohol. Sleep cycles, right? Sleeping too much, sleeping too little, isolating themselves, showing rage or talking about seeking revenge, and extreme mood swings. So I thought this was kind of an interesting thing to think about too. So suicide risk in teenagers is most clearly linked to these 7 mental health conditions. This may or may not be some new information to you, but obviously the first one would be the major depressive disorder, conduct disorder, bipolar, eating disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, and substance abuse disorders. So again, another risk factor is being diagnosed, or maybe even some of these things, again, like bipolar, are usually not diagnosed further into adulthood, but maybe showing some of these signs of some of these mental health illnesses. 2 out of 3 teens with depression don't get the treatment that they need. So, that's probably part of our problem. Okay, so here is where we're gonna kind of stop and just watch this video. It's about 10 to 15 minutes long, and then we're gonna kind of wrap up with that discussion piece of it. So I wanted to show you just a few quick other links that you guys can have because it is such a short morning, so if you are interested in some more information. So this is the video that we just watched was the suicide prevention research, but there's a few more. There's a great podcast on childhood suicide and keeping kids safe online, as well as a podcast on warning signs for child suicide. So if you're into podcasts, these are great links. Men in the middle years, remember that is one of the most at-risk generation and gender, and so there's a great short video on that, as well as reaching older adults. So if you're interested, there's some other great links from, this is the National Institute for Mental Health has all that. And these were those cards that I was telling you guys about in the very beginning that you can order from here as well. So you can always just have these cards out as resources available for friends, family, whomever. Okay, so that's that other link. And then I am going to pull this video up. I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights off. So this is a very long, we're only going to watch about the first 10 minutes of it, and then just have, but this is also another great video if you're interested. It's called More Than Sad. Oops, sorry. More Than Sad, Teen Depression, and it's some great case examples if you're ever doing a suicide training and you just kind of want to talk about some things. So as you're watching this, I want you to think about what are some warning signs for this individual. Maybe if you were a neighbor, how could you maybe talk to the parent or even help them get resources? But what are some things specifically that you see in here? Let's go ahead and name at least 3 of the warning signs that Lana was kind of displaying in this video, okay? Anybody want to share from your group? I heard all of them in there, so who's going to be brave enough to talk? So at least 3 warning signs.
Too much sleep.
Okay, sleeping all day in the middle of the day, absolutely. Those sleep patterns being disrupted, yes. Isolation from family and friends, absolutely. A very concerning one, because that's the, when you're depressed, isolating and not having those support
the
systems.
Change in school, I mean, she
Absolutely.
was very successful and now
100%. Change in not only her academic performance and kind of her work ethic, but also her attendance, right? All of those things can be warning signs of depression and anxiety. Okay, very good. Anybody have one that we didn't hit? All of those were great, yes.
Concentration.
The concentration, lack of being able to concentrate, right? Having kind of those mood swings, yeah.
She said she felt sad but couldn't figure out why.
Exactly. Right? Like not having that situational depression, right? Not losing a friendship, not losing a relationship, not losing anything. I just feel sad and I don't have a reason, right? So that makes me feel even more upset by it, right? Absolutely. Great job. Okay, so obviously those were some of the warning signs. Now, we didn't watch the whole video. It's 25 minutes long, but it is available. I think it's also so great. I mean, it's made for students and young adults to watch it. I think it's really great because I wanted you to think to yourself, were the adults, was the mom in that video helpful for her at first, right? I know, right? So she was trying everything she could do. She wasn't talking to her. And I think it's good for children to understand sometimes parents do things out of the best intent, but maybe it's just not the best thing for them at the time. And so mom was like, well, I don't know what else to do. Now I'm gonna do tough love, and that's not what she needed at the time. But kids just need to know that they're still loved no matter if they're happy or feeling depressed, that they are still loved, cared for, and supported for. Is there anything in specific you related to that the teens were going through? Maybe anything you worked with teens or either professionally see happen a lot, or the flat affect. Yes. Yeah. One of the positive things that the therapist did you notice she kind of came up with like a plan for her? So when she was feeling depressed, right, and kind of explained, right, when we are feeling depressed, it makes us tired, it makes us feel that way, but what we got to challenge that. So what can we do? So kind of that thinking ahead, right, because her brain maybe can't do that, right, and so helping her practice those things kind of helps her think ahead. And so what was the plan that they came up with? Calling a friend, right? And she came up with that on her own, right? It wasn't the counselor, telling her, why don't you call a friend, right? Giving them the coping skill strategies, right? What would make you feel better, right? And then challenging yourself to go do that. Absolutely. Okay, and so we're going to kind of finish with that today. So we know, in kind of summary and review, we have these biological factors, these psychological factors, this past history, and then we have current life events that all kind of accumulate together to make us at risk, right, for suicide, either ideation, attempt, or the actual process of the suicide behavior. Okay, so next up we're going to pause, and so in the video he talks about medication. And I know medication is kind of a hard thing for parents or guardians to decide whether to or whether not to put on, and what age is okay, what age is appropriate, when can people start taking medications? Is 5 too young? Is 8 too young? I don't know, right? So I wanted to share this specific article, and I'm sure many of you guys are aware of this, but the teen suicide epidemic in Kansas City. And this is fresh off the press. This is of this school year. Many of the schools have come together in the Kansas City area and kind of said, you know what, there's too many Kansas City area youth dying from suicide. This is a preventable cause, and we need to figure out why and get together and find solutions. So this is a rather longer article because it comes from several different points of view. It comes from a teacher, a classmate, a parent, the superintendent of the Overland Park School District, mentors, which is community members within the community. So I'm going to give you a few minutes, and I just kind of want you to read this article and think, what are some things that we are doing today that's helping prevent them? And also kind of just understand what research is telling us about depression and medicating children, where we are today with that. So I want you guys to think of at least 1 or 2 takeaways from this article as you read it today. So I'll give you about 5 to 10 minutes.